Okay. Hi, everyone. Just getting sorted here. Give me 1 second. Okay. We are doing the Hobbit house today. And for those who signed up and everything on our website, the image is there for reference. So you can always use it as reference, and you can just follow along with me. And I'm starting with a pencil, eraser, just to kind of roughly outline where I want my house to sit. And so when I paint it in, it's a little bit easier. I also have for my paints, primary colors with black and white. So I have phthalo blue, bright yellow, and bright red, which is not the orange red. Alrighty. And then for brushes, so I have my water cup, and then a couple brushes. You can use a whole bunch of different brushes for this. Detailed brush is really good for the details on the house and everything. Background, I like to use, you can use a large flat brush or a filbert. It's just a little bit larger to fill it in. If you have this is about a number 4 flat brush. It's a little bit frayed just for some texture. And then you can use smaller versions, a round brush. Any of these brushes are great. A large, middle, and detailed brush is good. Alrighty, so let's start with our pencil. And we're just going to sketch out. I like to start where the house is going to sit. So first of all, we have like a little pathway coming down here. This might be, I'm going to just get this. It's going to go off to the side about halfway up our canvas. So this is the halfway point. So it's just doing something over here where it's just a little bit windy, a little bit of a curve. And it doesn't have to be this wide. You can have it a little bit of grass over here. So you can always have it so that this is more of your grass section over here. So up at the top where it's kind of going off page, it's going to be much thinner and closer together than at the bottom where this is much closer to you, where the pathway is. It's coming closer to you, so it's going to get wider and wider as you come down. Okay, and then from here, so since the pathway is off to about here, I'm going to, this is kind of like my vanishing point. I'm going to have some distant sort of hills, rolling hills or mountains just in the background, and it just kind of goes up. Just press really light. I'll press harder for you so you can see. See, it's just a little bit on an angle. It doesn't have to be exact. You can always paint it a little bit more textured and not as smooth. So it looks a little bit more leafy and greeny. Okay. And now from here, this is where I fit in the Hobbit house, or it looks like there's a couple kind of trailing along here. So the main one, just on this far right side. I'm just going to shift this a little bit over. So right about here. I am going to start, so I'm not going to go above this. This is going to be more of the rooftop, so you can kind of get an idea of what's going to happen here. I'm going to do something like this. So it's just a little bit of like a hill. See, like that. Don't go too far over this way because then it looks like the perspective is a little bit weird. Just a little bit like this. And I'm going to make this thicker. So you can do a double line or you can just make it a little bit thicker so you know that you're going to make this thicker and fill it in a little bit more. So it's going off page and then it kind of ends a little bit over here. All right, and then just in the middle, I'm going to do a little line connected to the Hobbit door. So the door, we're just going to do a nice big circle. So you can put as much detail as you want into this painting. There's lots of details, or you can simplify it as much as you want. And then there's like the little knob here. And then as we paint it in, we know it's going to be more like this. So all I did is I just made this outline, so the frame of this circle door, a little bit thicker so that when I fill it in, I know that it's a bit thicker frame around the door. Okay, and when you're eyeballing this, you're going to have steps coming down to about here. So if you think you need to make it a bit bigger, go ahead and make it bigger. Okay, and then from here, we're going to make 2 windows, so smaller, more centered with everything. So this is the door, it kind of goes almost from top to bottom. I'm just going to about here, just do more of a line, a little bit angled. So it looks like it's going a bit that way. It's going out a little bit angled like that. Then I can put in a window right here, smaller. Another window over here. And then I'm going to divide, put some more of a post so it looks like there's some support beams coming down. They look like little Y shapes at the top. So I'll go a bit closer. Here we go. All right, so we have that. We can fill in. So we're going to make the windows a little bit thicker. Then this is going to be all kind of filled in with leafy greens, flowers and stuff. But over to the side, I just kept going with the windows. So we have, this is like more of the edge of the house. So you can just make sure that's a bit more obvious with the edge of the house. You're not going to really see this line. It's going to be covered with flowers. And then after that, I just do 3 more windows, or like, yeah, something like windows off into the distance. So a little gap window. And then a little bit smaller, but they're pretty close together. And then a little one here. Okay. So make your adjustments as needed. You can make this, I made this a little bit thicker. And then we'll make the steps coming down. But I'll probably paint that in. However, you can have a way that it just comes in. Something like this, just like a little swoop. So it looks like it comes out a little bit and then comes more straight down. And then we'll put the fence over top after we fill everything in. All right. So we can start painting from here. pencil on the side. I'm going to start with a lot of my background. Dip this larger brush into the water. And I'm going to do something simple in the background, something nice and light. So that's more of a light blue, because you can put more detail and stuff into the rest of the painting with the house and everything. I'm just going to go back and forth like this. Go a little bit over the line, which is fine. Touch of water is great. I went over that hill line, so I don't want to show any gaps in between. Touch of water. You can either paint it all the same, or you can go a little bit lighter off to the side, but I'm just going right up to that horizon in the distance where the hills are. Maybe just add a little bit of white on my brush, and it just goes lighter blue. You don't even have to mix it again. You can just pick up a bit of white, and it goes much lighter off to the side. Go back to my light blue. You can make it streaky so that you kind of have like a cloudy look, or you can just make a couple clouds with me afterwards. Okay, so that's that. Washing it off. And just remember, you can pause and take your time, jump ahead or go backwards. I am using a frayed square brush. So it's like a bright brush, and you don't have to dip in the water. You can just take white. And if you want to add in some clouds, just going right into just below where my hills are going to be. You just lightly tap upwards. Just looks like you have some clouds coming in. Goes like they're kind of bumpy, so you can go as high as you want to. Just lightly tap. If you do a second coat when it's more dry, it actually looks a lot more brighter and more white. You can see a little bit more opaque. And when you do it while it's wet, it goes a bit more transparent, or at least it picks up the blue and looks more of like a light transparent blue. And you can go maybe just 3/4 of the way across. So it looks like it's just kind of disappearing behind the hills. You're just playing around with the shape a little bit. And I'm going below my hill line again so that I don't have gaps in between. And you can do a little bit of a second coat or a third coat to your liking. The more you go over it with wet blue paint, the more it's going to pick up the blue again. Just light little taps, more with the corner of the brush, sometimes straight on, but I like the fluffy sort of look it gives. What's really good for that too is if you have a brush like this, this can give it very nice, soft, gentle clouds. You just lightly tap over it, kind of softens the edges a bit more. Optional. Okay, so once that's done, just gonna leave it alone. And we start filling in some of our base coats of the greenery. So one thing at a time. And I'll just whip together a painting. I start a lot with the greenery, getting in some of that depth, and then I like to place the house and the windows over top. to my liking. So you're not painting around things. Okay, washing off the brushes. And you can start with your larger brush just to get a base coat filled in. I am going to start with probably a darker green and then go to lighter green. So in my same light blue spot, I just add in a scoop of blue, scoop of yellow. It goes really dark green. If you like it a bit tealish or forest green, another scoop of blue. Don't really need to add white. It has a bit of white already in there, or just add a touch of it if you don't want it as dark. You can always add like a little smidge of that. I also like to add in a small touch or two of black, so like little dots of it. A little bit closer with the green. Pretty dark. All right. Now, as I'm filling this in, along the pathway, I'm just going to get, again, a little bit of a base coat. Just going to kind of sweep it and just dab. Kind of like, I like it a little bit more rustic and textured. So I'm not trying to do it all smooth and clean looking. I want it to be like there's some overgrown parts, there's some shrubs, there's some more texture going on. So you can do long streaks and little short ones. Touch of water, pick up more paint. It's not a rule that you have to use this same color for the entire base coat. You can change your greens as you go. Up where just going right on the line of where the pathway is. Looking like this. Right on the line. Don't care that the stairs are going to be there right now. And we flick it into the pathway a bit, because you can always make your pathway bigger. Touch of water, more paint. I especially like this color just above where the Hobbit house is. So just lightly dab just above the house. Looks like there's a bit of a shadow kind of behind it. Just go a little bit up. I know it looks like I'm going in my clouds, but remember we have more of a hill. And then I'm not going to go too much over the house. I'm just going to go right on the line, right up to the stairs, and just tap around on this side. Dab, dab, dab. Up to the stairs. Go over the line a bit. Mix a little bit more paint. Small touch of black. Doesn't have to be perfectly the same. All right, and on the other side. Small touch of water. What I did here is I made it look a bit like there's hills running down. So what I've done is I've just helped out a little bit with that. So I'm just going to make it look like it's kind of doing one of those, almost like a flowing waterfall sort of look. See how it looks like it's flowing down like a hill instead of just straight across? Gives it a different perspective. It looks good. So just like that. Yeah, it's just curving down instead of straight down. This is going to be stairs, so we're going to take care of that later because that's curving down a little bit. But see, curving down, looks like it's just rolling down off to the distance. Go really close to the windows here because it looks like, since it's so far away, it's getting a little bit closer up to the windows. It's going to help with that perspective. We're just going to roll it down. A combination of streaks and dabs, and it's not going to all just be that color. I'm going to fill in with some lighter greens very shortly. Okay, and if it helps in the background to get more of the outline, let's go to maybe a pointy brush, or you can use a flat, thinner, bright brush. I'm going to add white and a bit of yellow, change up the color a bit, like green. Get some of my hills going. So I'm just going to do some little triangular tops. And as I fill it in, just let it mix a little bit with that green. Don't make it so perfect where it's like, okay, it's this color, then it's separate from this color. Just go over it a bit, let it pick up the color. Just make in some distant hills. And maybe another one over here. I'm just following up and down with the groove, so up the triangle, back down. I'm going to add in a bit more blue and yellow, go a little bit darker. So those are my distant hills. I went a little bit darker, mostly just so that it's easier to see what is what, and you can change up your greens as you go. So not everything is the same. And then remember this hill here, all I'm doing is just kind of dabbing, so it looks like a bunch of trees, distant trees and shrubs. Just lightly tap. You can use your frayed, you can use a round frayed brush if you like more of a shrub look, or this one again. I'm just showing you can pretty much do this with all sorts of brushes. Whatever one's your favorite, you can stick with it. Going lightly on top of the darker color, letting it mix a bit with that. Okay, and then it's just going to get closer and closer to our windows here until it meets all the way down here. So it's just kind of falling down like a hill again. And then what I want to do is start besides the house. I want to fill in around these windows. So it looks like the windows are going through. The windows are going through all of where the shrubs are. And that means I can switch back to a darker forest green. So that's blue, yellow, and then a touch of black. You can add a smidge of white, but if you're mixing off of lighter green, it's already got a bit of white in it anyways. All we have to do, I think, is just go around the circle like this. Touching up just above here. Right up to the door. And I'm just filling in around these gaps right now. And then letting it mix into the first mountain or just into the mountains here at the bottom. Okay, just follow this. I have a couple little peaks here, but if I just lightly tap at the bottom, adds a bit more depth as well, at least the start of it. And I'm washing that off. So I want to fill in a little bit more of the green here, just some much lighter green. I like to do more touch-ups later to my liking, but white, yellow, and a touch of blue. So if you're mixing on top of previous green, just more yellow, scoop of white, maybe no more blue because it's already got blue, but if you want to start fresh, scoop of white, scoop of yellow, touch or two of blue, so you get this neon light yellowy green color. It's also whatever you like, right? So if you like just very light lime green, touch more blue. You can add a touch more white. See how I'm just following the groove of this hill. Just kind of close to the top here, really close to where the windows are. Not really touching the windows, but very close. As I get very close to it, it looks like it's already rolling down. Just blobbing it or tapping as I follow it downwards. And again, lightly overlapping onto that dark green a bit. I'm just going right up to this dark green here. A little bit of an overlap. Swishing it in, dabbing it in. So I can switch brushes just to show you that you can do this with different brushes as well. So I'm not changing my brush just because we need to, but just in case we all have different brushes. I'm going to do the same similar thing. The same color, but you can use the frayed flat brush, for example, just along, lightly tap along the tops of some of your hills up here. Get some highlight going, lightly and more sparsely faded, so less dabs as you go down, so it looks like more of the light is hitting the top, so a lighter green towards the top. That's something you can do. You can also just highlight more of the tops of your little triangles in the distance. Smudge it in with your finger if you need to. So I didn't mention this in the beginning, but this is actually a pretty hard painting. And I don't want people to get overwhelmed. So if you're like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming, you just simplify it. You start there. There's nothing wrong with simplifying something. And just going along the side, just kind of streaking it across. You can do the dabs with it or just streak it across up to that green. So it looks like now you have a couple more depth and just a little bit more layers. You have like the darkness towards the path, and then you have a mix of greens There's some greenery off to the side. Okay, and I like to do the same thing on this side because it's just a flat color. I will add in some dabs, going kind of more straight across. You just don't use too much paint for the side because then it can come off a little bit, again, lighter, not as harsh. Depends on how dark you want the edge to be. If you want it to keep it more dark on the right side, like I am, you can just use very little paint or darken your paint so that it stays a bit darker. Okay, we got a lot going on right now. That's good. Very good. So I'm just going to wash this off. All right, so before I start the house, something you can do if you want to go a little bit above and beyond, you can give your hills in the background a little bit more of an outline if you want to, some more blue. So remember that dark blue, the blue with the yellow equal parts and a bit of black. You can give it more of an outline, especially at the bottom, kind of wherever you want to. You can make it more obvious what hill is overlapping which one. Extra, I like to use my finger a lot to kind of smush it in. I find that it gives it a softer look at the same time. And kind of, oops, this one, see it's following down. I'm just imagining that it's going behind this one here. If you want this one to look like, so this triangle is overlapping this one, I'm just going to lightly tap and follow it almost all the way up and smush it in at the bottom so it looks like it's more shadowed at the bottom. And this one's now in front of that one. And from here, if you want to add extra hills or more layers, feel free to do that, like little ones, or don't. Just make it look like it's just, if you like it the way it is, don't keep playing around with it. So I'm just using this to do a second coat and darken up on the right sides of my windows over here. It makes it look like you're seeing it from this perspective. So you see more on this side and the darkness on that side. And it looks like it's looking out a little bit more towards the left, if you're interested in fancy stuff like that. I'm using my detail brush. Let's do one more thing, maybe with a bigger brush, the same color, just a second coat of my dark green, just along here where the stairs are going to be. And it just looks like it's falling a little bit down on that, just a light amount of paint falling down a little bit on that angle where it's rolling down a hill a bit. So it's breaking up a little bit of this color, the light green. And a little bit heavier down on this side right here. So on the right side compared to the left. Again, if you want to go above and beyond and start building onto the depth, see I'm just dabbing it, very little paint. Go over it a few times. It actually picks up the background a bit more. So heavier and more on this side, and then a little bit less towards where it's going off into the distance over there, up and to the left. Okay. If you're ready to start with the Hobbit house, you can do that. I would use a detail brush for pretty much all of it, all the windows and that. And again, simplify it or add as much detail as you like to. And we'll be using the same color for the pathway to make it pretty easygoing, unless you want to change up the color. So I'll just wait 30 seconds for that green to settle a bit, and then I'll start doing the Hobbit house. And you can let me know how it's going. We also, on our Facebook page, Artist Palette Durham, you can show your progress or show your results when you're done. You can also type in the chat how it's going or where you're painting from. If you find this hard, or maybe you are just looking for this type of challenge, a little bit of a tedious job, tedious work. I find it pays off pretty well. Okay, so if you have a pre-mixed yellow ochre or brown that you want to use, you can build off of yellow ochre because it's pretty similar. I'm going to use, you can use like dirty yellow, for example. So if it's touching a bit of blue, that's fine. It makes brown quicker. Yellow and red, I'm going to use 2 parts yellow, 1 part red. It's already looking a bit brown if I touch green. Scoop of white. Then it goes a bit more yellowy golden. I'm going to take 2 scoops of white. And a small touch of black. If it's going green, all right, then you just have to balance out with a little bit more red at a time. No one's going to say that your house color is wrong. It is on the lighter side, but you just add white to a little section of your brown. If you want it much lighter, don't mix it with like a huge heaping pile of it. It will probably drive you nuts. And a touch of red because it's looking a bit yellowy green. So the red counters it, and now it goes a bit warmer looking. Just a little bit of red at a time. Too much red, it just starts looking purpley pink. Here. Okay, so we have that. And now what we want to do, start with our little rooftop. It's usually like the thickness of your number 1 or number 2 brush. You just go across and there's like your thicker rooftop like that. You can always do second coats if it's not going how you want. What I personally think helps is save that color. Save that color, especially for when we do the pathway down here. It's a great color. With a little bit of this, or just start fresh. A little bit of black, yellow, and red about equal parts. Didn't even wash off my brush, by the way. You get more of a darker brown. So you have more of a darker brown, so about equal parts of red, yellow, and black. Too much black, it will go really, really dark, but you can always add more yellow and red and a touch of white if you want to go a lot lighter. But this is the shadow that is going underneath, so you can see the difference. And yes, I know I'm covering my beams, but I already know I could put them back in. They're just little lines. I don't want to paint around them. Goes right up to the line. If you go over it, that's okay. You just go back over your rooftop again. Touch of water. But with a little bit of paint, I'm just kind of smushing it in. Go around the windows, give it a bit of a shadowy look, because I'm going to mix it with my lighter brown. Go around the door a little bit. And even a little bit at the bottom, just a little bit of paint. Okay, then I'm going to blend it out, which you can use a little bit of a bigger brush for this, or keep using your detail brush if it's working well for you. Go back to your light brown again. Just go in the empty spots a bit, kind of lightly dab in the color. Let it pick up the color a bit, that's okay. Use the extra just to get off and put in the pathway. Now that I can feel and you can see, like, I don't have much paint anymore, then this is where you can lightly tap, maybe with your small brush, into the brown, let it mix a bit. I don't care if I go over the green a bit, just a little, it's fine. Now you got some shadow going. Looks pretty cool. So while that's settling for a minute, we can put in, while we have the brown, take advantage of that and put in the brown in the pathway. I use the same color for the main part and then a darker brown around the edges. You can use a flat brush or a round brush, whatever works for you. We'll just use the flat brush. Small touch of water. Pick up this again. And back and forth. Water. Let it go a little bit into the green. I'm going to use a dark brown around the edges so it looks like it's getting a bit darker towards the green, or you just leave it like that. So I kept all my streaks level with my canvas. I just kept them all straight side to side and level with the canvas. And it looks like it's more of a flattened pathway. It's not like too wobbly and wonky. Okay, and then what you could do, add a bit more white in the same color and just highlight, go over with any brush on top of that rooftop again. And just add in a little bit into around the windows. A little bit of a highlight and a lift. Okay, washing this off. Washed it off and tapped it dry. I'm going to go back to my dark brown, so black, red, and yellow. Dark brown. This is just my dark color, just along the edges. Again, I like the kind of rustic vibe where it's not like it's in a perfect line, just short little lines. Longer ones down here, kind of bleeding over into and mixing in with some of the lighter brown. See, longer lines down here. And on the other side, kind of going into the green and the light brown. And as I get up my pathway, if you want to switch brushes, you can, but you're just going to do shorter ones. So it looks like it's not as much and closer to you, so you don't see as much detail. It's a little bit more faint. You can add a little couple extra into the middle. So if you need to, you can always go back to your green and just touch up around the edges with some dark green. That's always an option. And you can always touch up, do a little bit of a second coat, just underneath your rooftop here. All right, so I'm going to start with the windows and the doors. It's more of a green color again, but then afterwards I do all of the frames. What you could do if you're afraid that you're going to lose your circles is maybe I'll just do it this way so that you can just keep track of it a little bit better. Go to your light brown again. I'm just adding a touch of red just because if I touch too much green, it goes too greeny. Around. You can go outside the circle, within the circle. Helps determine how big it is. Do that. And again down here. And for the frames around these ones, I'm going to do a darker brown. I'm going to do my dark brown here. Didn't even wash off the brush, just took the dark brown. And more dark brown. Around. Making that door frame a little bit thicker so it looks like it's got more of a door frame. Just pressing harder with the brush. We're just going over it a few times. And then one more. I am going to stick with the dark brown and do those beams at the front of the house. Well, although you can just leave it like this. So for the beams, maybe you can go a touch darker with a bit more black. Small touch of water. I like to twirl my brush in here, keep it nice and pointy on the end. But first of all, remember that line that we had going up, like this. And then here, going straight up, making a little Y shape at the top. And then again here, straight up. A little Y shape at the top. If you want, you can also just touch up with this color underneath your rooftop. And I can easily fix the rooftop by just touching up with the color again. Okay, so if you want to do a little bit of above and beyond sort of thing, with your black and more, so like the more black added to your brown, so super dark brown, I did little, almost like a wheel, like it's kind of curving and wrapping around. A little bit of like a texture and stuff around the door frame. Just go on the outsides. It's almost like it's just like a bumpy door frame, almost bubbly looking, or like there's brick going around it. You can also just outline it, not add any of that. I like to outline from within as well. And the same thing over here, I'm just going to put dark outline about halfway on the left side with my super dark brown. Just wrapping it around on the left side, so the left half of my circles in the windows here. Looks a bit like a shadow. And then I can fill in my windows and doors. So the way I like to fill this in, I'm going to use a sort of olivey green, a little bit of blue, scoop of yellow with a touch of brown. So you take a little bit of your brown, and then a little bit of white, extra little bit of brown till it's as olive as you want it to be. So it's basically it's just like a basic green with some brown added. Probably about 2 parts yellow, 1 part blue. And then you have more of an olive green. So what I'm going to do here is just go right up to the line, almost overlapping my dark brown or black outline from within. I'm just going to swirl it. I'm going to cover the center doorknob and just place it back in. I'm going to take a bit of white now. Don't have to wash off the brush, so white, and just swirl it. Like that. So what you can do for the windows, keep it simple, just fill it in one solid color. I just fill it in very textured, meaning just dabbing it as I fill in. Small touch of water. And just do the same here, tap, tap, tap. If you're feeling a bit fun with your light green, just add some white on your brush. You can just do some almost like cross hatching. Give it a bit of like a glared look, kind of more in the center. Okay, here it is a bit closer. And we have a lot going on. So what we can do here, detailed brush on the door, and then after that we'll do the windows, but we'll use a bit of black and brown again. All I'm going to do is just do some streaks, very lightly press for a wooden look. For the windows, you can do just some like a light yellow, white, and a touch of yellow, small touch of yellow. Twirl the brush, and you can do like the little bars on the windows, like 2 lines, and then a couple going horizontally. You can do 3 if you have the space. And then I'm going to be adding in some stairs, and I'm filling it around shrubs and everything. With your light brown, you can add a bit more yellow and red. It changes the brown a little bit. The yellow and red goes a bit more orangey. You can add a touch of black if you think it's too orangey. Going on the left side of my little Y shape, see? My little posts, if you slightly overlap the black, they look thinner. Also, it pops out a little bit more too. You can always use, if you don't like it so dark, just add more white and just go over it. See, you can see the difference if I add more white. And for the knob on the door, I would do some sort of brown, just combinations of equal parts yellow, red, and some black with a little bit of white. Doesn't have to be super dark. Just a little circle, or poke with the back handle of your brush. Like this. You can always outline gently in black. And then you can use white to just smudge in the middle. Give it a shinier look. Okay, and with your sort of medium to light brown, if you want to, you can just lightly go through those. If you did those little like highlights with the, just making it look kind of like bricks going around, just go highlight around it just to make it pop a little bit more. So it's almost like just dotted lines. There. Okay, for staircase. This is after you're done the house. And then you can take care of awkward spots like flowers and stuff. It really brings out the depth and makes it look more, I think, interesting and fun. You can use your flat brush, so it's some sort of flat middle brush with a thin edge for the stairs. I put the fence in afterwards over top, which covers a lot of the stairs, so the stairs wasn't something I really focused on. I would start, so you can do one of two things, dark gray or just dark brown. If you find dark gray easier to mix, just do that, which is black and a little bit of white, but also you can just do black with yellow and red, almost equal parts. Pressing down, flattening my brush. I'm just going to go right up to the door. Do a straight line, leave a gap, another straight line, leave a gap. And it helps if I'm actually doing it level with the canvas. I'm going to fix that. So I'm looking at it so it's level with the canvas. I'm going to go and just make it more how I think I want it to be. Again, great, level with the canvas. Just put a couple lines underneath so it looks like there's a bit more of a shadow and grounding for the house. Level with the canvas. Here we go. And then if you can just kind of keep it simple, but I'm going to just offset it a bit. So I'm going to leave a bit of a gap again. I'm going to press, this one's going to be a little bit harder so you can see. It's almost like you can see the step, the shadowy spot of the step where you're stepping up onto the highlighted spot. That's one way to look at it so that it's not too confusing. So the lines are not that thin. So now I'm going to leave a gap here. So this is the back part of the shadowy part of the step, and this is the part where you're putting your foot on. Leave a gap so that I can step below, and then just offset it a little bit off to the side, and just do a thicker shadowy step again. Leave a gap again. And you can have it go wherever you want. Or you can keep going this way or come back down center. It's almost like you can just even make a rectangle. Okay, let's do one more. And I'm just touching up on some of the dark brown along my little pathway. Why not? I have the color with me. So you can wash this off, take white with a small touch of brown, or just do light gray. So white, small touch of brown. You got a super light gray. It's almost white looking. And you can see at the top. So we're going to step right here on the top part of the step. Here, that's my stepping part. And then over here, this gap is now my stepping part. Small touch of water. Yeah, we got some stairs. Feel free to touch up on your shadowy stuff. The great thing about the stairs is I shape it around with greenery and grass to make it easier instead of having to worry about making it look like you can see the edges and the sides of the stairs. So that's always good. Okay. Now to start with all my flowery stuff, before you do the flowers, anything you want to add to your doors and windows that you've done, do it now. So for example, you need little shadows from within, like an inner outline, like we did on the left side here. I remember that. You can touch up on that just to make sure it's how you want it. Okay. So what I'll be doing is for my flowery, there's so much you can do for your flowery bits. I'm just going to be dabbing for the most part and then changing up the color as I go, but you can always add different types of flowers. I'm going to be switching up my greens a lot as well, just to add in extra greeny filler shrubs. So if I go to my frayed flat brush, first we can just touch up on the greens and just try to add some brown to your green, try to make something slightly different in any combination of yellow and blue. So you can see I just added a bit more yellow. And it's just, you see it looks like it's flowing and overgrown, coming up onto the stairs and into the house a little bit on the sides. Maybe if you want to go darker again, because you want the shadowy one, no white, blue and yellow, and then a touch of black. So it can have some shrubs just covering, coming in on the sides. We can just go on top of the stair, so it looks like on the stepping part, they're just kind of going into that section. Extra bit of black. Added some darkness. And then you can touch up along the pathway. It also can help shrink if you need to shrink your pathway a bit. Just into the pathway, like little taps. And then I'm just adding a couple extra above my little rooftop here. Above some of the windows and just below. You can see a frayed brush is actually really good for this texture. And it does a lot of the work for you. It's great. Just feel free to cover some of the stairs on the edges. There we go. And like with that fence where it says no admittance except on party business. You can write that with a Sharpie afterwards, but there's a fence right here. Makes it very Hobbit house. Like we know it's from the Hobbit. And it covers a lot of this. So if you're worried about some of this stuff, it's not going to be your main focus. All right, back to some, I didn't even wash off the brush. White and yellow added to my brush, and it just goes light yellowy green. You can just kind of touch up on what looks like some yellowy flowers in a way, or highlights of your grass. Just bringing it down, kind of like in the middle here of our hill, so it's not all the way up and down. It's kind of more capturing the middle part where it's already lighter. Some over here. Keep it consistent. Now I'm going to add in some light blue. Washed it off. White and a small touch of blue. And this will break up a lot of your green. So light little taps with the corner of my brush. Looks like you got some sort of blue flowers or blue forget-me-nots in a way. Just on top of the green. Wherever, like in chunks. So for example, maybe I'll have some like right here, clustered together, and then nothing. Maybe up here. You can always put some flowers like above your rooftop or windows. Pretty fun. Okay. Then let's go to some purple. Blue, red, maybe 2 parts red, 1 part blue, white. Kind of looks a bit lavender. Add this in with the blue or new sections. Add a little bit more white. You can always do orange, so some yellow, red, and some white mixed together. I mostly just did blue and purple. You can create maybe some lavender or lilac with some purple if you want. So you can use a detail brush and it kind of just around here. You can make some cones. I'll add a bit more red, some more pinkish ones. Like little taps to make a very rough cone shape. You could do it with some blue as well. White. Take white and just highlight more at the tops or on the edges. Or just take some darker colors like red, just straight red, to shadow the bottom. And then black for a couple stems. This is just light yellow. Feel free to add in some light yellow for some sort of daisies. Okay. This is just my dark green. If you want to touch up on your windows, I'm just doing that because it's as much work as you want to put into it. And I mostly just kind of touched up with green around the edges. Also dark green, just above the house. And below the little windows on the sides, that really helps too. And on the edges, so just kind of in that little area. So what I like to do from here is put in my fence. One little thing for the fence, you can let it dry. A little bit of white just on the pathway, just towards where it's like going into the brightness in the distance, kind of in the centers of your pathway, about halfway down, something like that. Just a little bit of a beaming light is all. You can also just use a bit of white on the tops of some of your hills and mountains up here, like little flicks or dabs or something like that. Even on for flowers. Now, when I do my post, like my little fence where it says no admittance except on party business, I will use a flat brush, kind of more square. You can use an angled brush as well. I'm going to take some sort of brown. You can do dark brown first, red, yellow, and black, and then highlight afterwards. That's what I like to do. You can also just take black and then highlight in the lighter brown. Flattening my brush. So this is like, see the dark, nice dark color. Just testing out the color. Let me touch up on the shadow at the bottom. Okay. Touch of water. So we want them to be pretty straight up and down. Okay, so let's do it next to these flowers or on top of them. Looks like it's on the edge of where the staircase is. I'm going to press, go up. I would say up to about the second or third stair here, so you only see a couple going upwards. A little ball at the top. Okay, then a big gap, so that the other side. And then I'm going to do it a little bit shorter. Ball at the top. So the idea is as it goes this way, the posts get a little bit shorter and shorter, further and further away. And one. And shorter. And a little bit closer together, something like that. You can switch to your detail brush. Take the same color. So these two, you can do more like a pointy top, almost like a pencil. You can just leave it simple with just up and down. And in front here, maybe go back to your flat brush. Dark brown again for a highlight. I'm doing a triangle, so from the top, not where the ball is, so just below at the bottom part of the ball. We're going to try to center it so that it just sort of meets like that as a sort of triangle. Across. Just ignore whatever's behind it. And I'm going to do one more across here. You can also use just a little bit of black to give it more of a grounded look on the bottoms where your post is. And now I highlight. Highlighting, you can just use the same color that you've used for your pathway or something similar. White, a little bit of yellow and red, kind of like a light orange. If it touches green, it makes brown a lot quicker. Small touch or two of black. While it's still wet, you can just streak it on. Let it mix a bit with that dark brown. A little inner circle. You can use your finger to kind of smush it around, give it like a rounded, highlighted look, and it's more darker on the edges. Smush it around. You also just highlight more on the left sides of these posts that you've made. Keep it dark on the right, where it's like the light's kind of coming from the left. You can use just straight white to do that highlight on the left side of all of it. It gives it a bit more of a popped out look. Even on the little balls, just on the left side. Like a little shiny spot. And for the sign, so you can decide if you want to do the sign. I would paint it fully in white. What's so white, it kind of picks up some brown. Let it fully dry, and you can write with marker or something, or a Sharpie, the no admittance except on party business. You can let this dry a little bit longer. This is just white and yellow. A little bit of yellow if you want to change up some of the highlights so it goes a bit more yellowy. But I will do that. I will just take white, do my sign right in the middle. So rectangle. right in between those two lines, basically. If you like it how it is when it picks up a bit of the background color, you can just leave it. Or wait for it to fully dry and do a second coat. Up to you. You can use your detailed brush to give it an outline in black or something like that. Just outline, just a little bit of black. And then from here, it's just little touch-ups to your liking. So for example, you can use a dark gray or, yeah, dark gray or just black. Black with a little bit of white, and put a couple birds in the distance. Couple little birds in the distance there. They look like they're so far away you can barely see them. That has to fully dry, but yeah, you can just write a sign on there. So it's like, okay, that's the Hobbit. That was a lot. That was a lot of work. Hopefully it was fun though. Maybe it was hard. Let us know on our Facebook page how it went, how it's going. Really hard to stop painting, but I would say take a few steps back, see how it's looking. I like to add in a little extra shadow, especially in the corners here. Gives it more, like this is the light back here, and then you're in like a little nook over here. Okay, thanks for joining me. We have lots of paintings on our YouTube channel, artistpaletterm.com, and we're on Facebook. More to come. Love to see results, so show it off when you're ready, and maybe you'll paint with us again. But this one's probably the most complex for our free events that we've done, and tweak it to your liking. Ultimately, simplify it or keep going and going and going until you have it exactly how you want it. Thank you for joining, guys. Bye.